type. Uh, and sorry, and thinking of African languages as not equally on par with the language of the colonial masters. But we all speak. Our languages are languages in themselves. They have systems of knowledge, and they have rules. They have their own orthography, and they have their own systems of pronunciation and things like that. And they are unique and should be treated with equal respect and dignity that they deserve.
Okay. Wow. That's good to know that there's that great difference, because in my research for the show today, I thought that dialects are the spoken languages that you don't write, that are not written, because most of our African languages are not written. And so they're considered dialects. And those that are written are languages, kind of like a superiority and inferiority, you know, dynamics on here. But that was a good explanation that you provided. Now, what is the name of your own native language?
My language is Mungaka, which literally in English, if you translate it to English, it means me, I say. Mungaka, me, I say. And it's a language spoken by the Balinyonga people located in the Northwest region. I have to emphasize Balinyonga because there are 5 Balis in the region. And there's a unique story. There's an interesting story there. The other 4 Balis speak one language, and my own Bali speak a language that is totally different from those, and is not intelligible to the other Balis. So my language is Mungaka.
So in the Northwest region, you have 5 different, would you say, cultural groups that speak Mungaka? Is there a variation in the way that you all speak? Is the same?
So the only people that speak Mungaka are Balinyonga people. There is no other people in the Northwest that speak Mungaka. Okay. That is the only group that speaks that language.
Okay.
The other Balis are referred to speak Mubako, which is a language we originally spoke, but our history and migration and things like that made us evolve into speaking Mungaka. It's a whole different history and a different topic, but that language Mungaka evolved because of our contact in the Western region, particularly with the region in the people of Bati, and so we were migrating from the north, and when we settled around that region, it was, you know, we were warriors and we fought battles. So the men went off to war, and the women stayed at home with the children, and they spoke. That's how that language, because the mothers at home spoke slightly Mobako, and the region where they were Bati, evolved a language where you mixed bits and you borrowed bits from another language, and that is how Mungaka sort of evolved. So Mungaka has a lot of linguistic affinity with that language in the Western province, and it does with any languages around it. Right. So sometimes when you know, if you meet somebody from that region of the Western province and you speak Mungaka, they have like things they are picking up in my language, or if they speak, I will pick up a little bit of things in their language. That's because our language, Mungaka, is heavily borrowed from that region. It doesn't have any connections with languages within, like our neighbors or anything like that.
I'm trying to add closed caption so people can, you know, read what we're saying, but for some reason it's not working for me, but I'll keep trying. So let me go to Auntie Mercy. You identify as somebody from the southern region of Cameroon, and yes, we would say from the northwest province of Cameroon. And what is your own language, and who are the people who speak it?
I come from Mancon, and we speak the Mancon dialect, but generally the people around the periphery, they call them Gemba, just like Lillian has said. There are certain words that everyone from the Gemba area will pick one thing or the other from these different dialects that we speak. For example, somebody from Bafut will greet you, will say, if they want to say, how are you? They say, Abella. Then a Mancon person will say, Abena. So there's that similarity, which is generally from the people from Gemba that have certain things that they identify with. But I am precisely from Mancon, and we speak the Mancon dialect.
Okay.
That's
So the
true.
people,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Lillian.
I was going to add that the Ngemba language group is actually one of our big language groups in the Northwest region.
Yes.
Within that language grouping, you will have from Awing, Alatineng, Mancon, Bafut, and even Pingin.
Yes.
That whole group is called the Ngemba languages. And then you have the variations, like you just pointed out, in how the people of each kingdom speak. But they're almost always intelligible, like you said, slight variations.
Yes.
Yeah, but they are all within the Ngemba languages, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into this book that you wrote.
Thank you.
Mungaka Word Book. I read a lot of books. I have a lot of books with me at home that I read.
Okay.
And with the advent of social media and audiobooks, I read a lot of audiobooks. It's sometimes really easier to read them. But this is the one book that I bought, but I can't read. Because I can't speak the language. There we go with that barrier.
Oh, yes.
So
this is the moment you wish our languages were taught
exactly. So
Yes.
I have a book, but I cannot read it. That doesn't mean I'm illiterate. I can read other languages. So first of all, what inspired you to write this book?
So let me say something about literacy, because I say this to my Bali people. If you can speak Mungaka, but you cannot read and write it, you're illiterate in Mungaka.
Okay, can you say that again to all the Bali people who are listening?
Louder.
And
if you can
applies to all of us.
Yes.
But you cannot read and write it, you are an illiterate in Mungaka. It means you cannot read and write. That's what illiteracy is. You cannot read or write a language. Okay.
Yeah.
So what inspired me was literacy. Like I speak this language and I cannot read it. I cannot write it. Not because there were no available resources. It's just Mungaka orthography that we had from way back was based on German language. And that's because the Germans had translated the Bible into Mungaka. That's the main resource we had. The Germans had helped do a Mungaka dictionary. The orthography of that was based on German language, and it was hard for me to read it. My dad, his generation could read it, so he had no problems reading that. So in 2010, they had a Mungaka Rehabilitation Committee was created, which was to help revive Mungaka, revive the orthography to be in line with the Cameroon language alphabet system or something like that. I need to get that word right. And so through the work of that rehabilitation committee, the Mungaka language orthography was revised into a modern orthography that we could use. And with that, I was able to learn to read and to write Mungaka. And when I became friends with that, it made me embark on this project to help promote literacy, to help people who speak Mungaka be able to read and write.
Yeah.
It's very vital for our language to have it documented, to have resources for somebody who wants to learn to read and write. So with that in mind, I set about putting just a basic resource there. When kids are growing up, these are the kind of books they have, right?
Right, picture books.
Yes, picture books, first words, that kind of thing. So this was my idea, like, let me go with something basic, words that people and pictures. Because if you already speak the language, you know some things, right? A picture and say, that's a pot. And I know how to say pot. Pot in Mungaka is mbang. And I can see their pot, mbang. Now I see how it is written and I can read it. So it was an idea of just having a didactic resource out there that helps people to be able to read the language and write it. And that was my inspiration, really.
And I think, okay, so this is me trying to, Auntie Mercy, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say that, we were taught the English alphabet, but we were not taught our alphabet. Our alphabet is
Exactly.
completely different from the
Different.
English alphabet. And
Yeah.
I think it's something like our sister Lillian has done. I dove my heart to you for that. It's something that we have to start increasing this literacy by teaching our kids the alphabet. Is it easy? No, it's
No.
not. It's not,
Yeah.
because me here, I put myself in the category of illiterate when it comes
Just
to
like, I love what she
Manco.
said. You are
Yeah,
illiterate.
because I did not, we were not taught the Mancon alphabet. And trying to study it at this age is not fun. But, if we have to pass on the culture, it's something worth doing, and it's something spending time to learn how to
Absolutely.
read it. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that you
Our
mentioned that,
alphabet is
because
different.
I'm going to delve into a model that you have in your community, Auntie Mercy, that you want to pass on, that is going to help you pass on the culture to the younger generation. Go ahead, Lillian.
No, I say our alphabets are different. For
Mhm.
example, if you think of a sound like in my name, ndang, nga,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? The English alphabet doesn't have that.
Nope.
Yeah.
But it's a sound that is common in a lot of the Bantu languages that we have,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Even something like nye, nyikop, which is my
God.
God.
Mhm.
The English alphabet doesn't have that, right? So
Mhm.
Mungaka itself has 29 sound uh, letters, a sound system. English has 26, right?
Mhm.
There are vowel sounds that we have in our language, which is in English, you just have O in English, right?
Mhm.
But in Mungaka, you have O, moon, and O, bo, O. That it's in English, it just has O. So those distinctions are important. Mungaka, for example, has 3 E sounds. English has just the E, and you have to figure out based on the word how to pronounce it. Whereas for us, having that sound nailed down is important for how you read and write the language.
Reason
Very
for which we
important.
get our names murdered in the Western world.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. Right? I remember I have my in-laws who their name is Ngo. Ngo. And I don't know how people here struggle to pronounce it when you can say mango.
Yeah.
They'll say Ningo, Ngo. Like it's not
Yeah.
hard. It's not
Yeah.
hard. I
And
think
they try to make it sound the way they want it to sound. My name is Nte, and they put niche. I don't know how close
yeah.
Nte is to niche.
Yeah.
They
That's
just
another
want
thing
to
as well.
make
I said there's a sound in like the Gemba language that it's t. Like,
yeah.
okay, we don't have that. English doesn't have that, but that is a very common sound within the Gemba languages, right?
Yeah.
And we have to represent that when we're doing the orthography of the language. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, let me say something that it might be a little bit against your Mungaka language. In the entire northwest region of Cameroon, I think Mungaka is one of the most expressed languages when it comes to written. Don't you think it's because the missionaries came, they started helping you in putting that
Oh yeah.
into writing?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
I
That
agree.
is true.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Mungake was the language of the church.
Yeah,
It was the
Presbyterian Church.
language
My
of the
mother
mission.
sings in
It
Mungaka
was
all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
when
I
the
remember
missionaries
my
came.
mother going to church, and they did what do you call confirmation classes. All of that was done in Mungaka.
Yes.
So
No,
yeah.
we accept that. That is something we acknowledge and appreciate because it has given us the foundation
Okay.
to be able to do the work
Yeah.
So there's
that
no
you
excuse
have
for
there.
And there
any
are some hymns in the hymnary that
that
are
are in.
sung in
You
Mungaka,
have the Mungaka
which
hymn, yes.
yeah.
Yes, that is so true. Zingraf came in the late 1800s, and the then founder of Bali asked Zingraf to come to Bali. And when he knew what the missionaries could do, he asked them build a school. He wanted them to build a school. And so when the Germans built schools, they had to find ways to teach people, they were missionaries. So they started working on the translation of the Bible into Mungaka early on. So with that foundation, having the Bible in Mungaka, that's how they were able to go around the grass fields and continue the evangelization project there.
Mhm.
They use the Mungaka Bible in a lot of the churches in the Northwest region, and in the Southwest, they use the Douala
Yep.
language.
Yeah.
Those were the two languages that the missionaries used. So Mungaka benefited from that because we had that. And then later the Germans helped us to, they did a dictionary, which again has been very helpful in us developing
The
resources
language.
for the language. Yeah.
That's
So how can
wonderful.
someone find this alphabet? I'm looking at this book. I'm like I said, I read a lot of books, and this is the only book I bought, but I cannot read because I can't speak it. So if I go like to my cell phone for somebody who's like this generation, can I look for the word
Yes.
here, umbrella, and try to find it into Mungaka and find that particular
That's so funny.
alphabet? Where do you?
Well, we have an alphabet book.
Okay,
So we ask people to start with that. We have an alphabet, we actually have a Mungaka alphabet book.
got it.
Sorry, it's going to disappear of my thing. But we have a Mungaka alphabet book written by my lovely husband, Jude.
Awesome.
So that is you can start looking at that. It really goes from like letter A, letter D, and all that. So you have pictures and things like that. That show you how to pronounce particular letters. It's very basic, very, very beginner friendly. So building on from that, then you can come on to something like the word. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we have a basic
Interesting.
alphabet book.
That's good. We have to learn from you. Now let's talk about African languages and our African homes. Growing up in Cameroon, some parents considered wanting their children to speak proper English a better way of being raised. What do you have to say about that?
That was so wrong.
Yeah.
But
We were brainwashed.
Yeah.
We were brainwashed.
Yeah. That's the thing about like feeling like one language is superior. English is, if you speak English, you are proper, you're superior to somebody who doesn't speak English and who only speaks Ngemba language or who speaks, Akose language. No, you're not. That language is equally as good and beautiful and dignified as English is. A language is not just a way of communicating, it's a whole knowledge system. When we lose that, we are losing our whole knowledge system, our history, our culture, our identity, and things like that. It is very important. A language is rich and diverse in itself. There are expressions and things like I have in my language that English doesn't have.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like Lillian said, language is a vehicle of communication. There are certain things that, regardless of how you say it in English, they can never come out the same. There are some jokes that when you meet friends from your own cultural background, by the time you open your mouth to say a word, they pick it up. But no matter how you express that in English, nobody will ever get that.
You can't really translate.
Yes, and again, I think that it's just that issue of complex of we felt like when you speak English, you are somehow superior. We still had that issue of classifying people. Yes, so I think our parents did us wrong by making us speak a language that had nothing to do with our own cultural upbringing and background and learning the different things that surround us and expressing ourselves in that environment. So I think they did us wrong, and it is never too late for us to correct. Just like our sister has written this book, it is just time for us to pick up from now and see how we can rescue the next generation.
You led me to the next.
I was fortunate that I grew in a house that, my dad is a linguist, he's a trained linguist. My mom is a teacher of English. But Mungaka was always spoken in our house. My dad and the late Professor Lima are probably one of the foremost people who have done a lot of work on the Mungaka language as linguists. But that never, they were trained linguists. They know the English language in and out, but they also were very, very proud of their language and interested in promoting and documenting it. And so they did that. They focused on doing a lot of work on that. So I grew up in a house where I spoke Mungaka. It's also culturally is a sign of respect. I will not speak to my parents even today in English. I cannot greet my father good morning. No.
Yes.
it just doesn't happen that way. So like I said, a language is a whole knowledge system, it's a whole culture and identity, integral to your culture and identity. So there are things in Mungaka that, for example, in my language, we don't make a distinction between a cousin and your sibling, your direct sibling,
brother.
right? There's just one word in the language, is Mfet. So my cousin is Mfet, my brother is Mfet, my sister is Mfet. It's, you know, Mfet just means your sister or your brother.
Your sister, your brother.
You know, and that tells you something about the culture, right? That we do not distinguish between cousins. Your cousins are the same as your siblings. Your cousins are
that takes me to a point where, you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
We have you start with the nuclear family. That's your immediate family. And then you step up to the clan. You know, and then from the clan you go to the village. Or you go to the quarter. From the quarter and then the entire village. So when we understand this tree, this cultural tree, it helps us, it brings us together. You know that a person from this clan and a person from this other clan cannot get married, or they can't get married, and this is how close they are. This is
because
how
they're
spread
brothers.
apart. Yes, this is how spread apart they are. And we grew up where we always heard our parents say, this is my brother from this clan. It doesn't, they are like maybe second or third cousins, but because they come from the same clan, he associates with them as a brother or a sister from that clan.
And you say that today to your children here, they go, that's not my auntie.
Yeah, how many aunties do I have?
You have, yeah.
Yeah, so they ask you questions like that. But we still do that. We still do that because in our cultural setup, when we go to cultural meetings, you don't tell a kid to say, this is Becky, this is Rose, this is auntie, this is uncle, this is. So they ask those questions, but that is part of our culture. We're not going to push to break it down. And yes, yeah, we still have to let them know that that's how in Africa, that's how we grew up. And you will have as many uncles as you get to know them.
But Lillian had made it very clear. It's because there's one word that describes that relationship. It doesn't matter if it's an uncle, if it's a cousin or a brother. So I will steal that. Because I always just say, no, that's how it's done in Africa. But why is it done like that in Africa is what you just helped me to understand now. And I really like that.
Yes.
Do you think, both of you think that this aspect of some of our parents saying that speak English, speak proper English, is it an effect of colonization? You want to be like the white man. You know, look at the both of you today having your beautiful afro hair. I have my braids on. That is part of who we are as African people. So now adapting to, you know, the skin bleaching, the sleek hair and the baby, you know, looking fine hair. And so we're also taking English as another aspect of colonization. How bad has that done
for
to
sure,
us?
For sure. English, you know, we didn't speak English. How did we get to speak English? It was for colonization.
Yeah, and they wanted us to express ourselves in a language that they will understand, not a language that we will understand them. Yes. So they instilled that through the few parents that were intimidated to push their kids to speak good English. Who am I speaking the good English to? If I speak in the dialect, you, my dad, you, my mom, auntie, you understand. Who am I speaking that good English to? To the colonizers. So it takes us back to the fact that they used it as a tool to colonize us, to be able to speak like them. It's just the same like they will force us to take their names. I would tell them my name is Lum. They'll say, no, say Adams. Adams is mine. I don't know what Adams means.
What it means,
Yeah, so I have to stick to Lum because I can trace Lum to my roots.
That's true. It was all part of that colonial project, right? And the missionaries, like, remember, I think for a while, the Catholic Church, when they were going to baptize you, you have to have a baptism name. So if you had your Lum before, now you come to baptize, you have to take the name Mary, and then Mary becomes your name. We have those situations. But it's really us. We need to recognize that colonial project for what it was, and subjugating Africans and making Africans feel inferior to the colonial masters, and every aspect of Africa's identity as inferior, tribal, and primitive. And it's all because of that encounter, right? They did not discover us. Africans lived. Africans had their lives, going about their lives peacefully and enjoying life. I think Chinua Achebe's book just puts it all in perspective. Things fall apart. I recommend that book too.
The Center Cannot Hope.
Adult, you should read it at least 2 times in your adulthood.
That's right.
And really appreciate what that colonial project did. So we all had our own culture, our identity, and our languages before that European encounter. And Mercy is right. They just imposed the language on us, expecting us to speak this language because it was the way for them to suppress our language and to subjugate us to them. It's not that our languages are inferior or anything about that. No, English is not necessarily superior to any language. It just so happens because of how widespread the Brits colonized people around the world. It became much more spoken, a language that is spoken globally.
Commonly spoken, yeah.
So how do we begin to fix this? Well, we have the word book, Mungaka word book, which is, a blueprint that Dr. Lillian Dangam has put out for us to start learning Mungaka. So me, I'm not fluent in Akose. I'm ashamed to say that sometimes, but sometimes I look at my mom, I'm like, I blame you because my father is Bakosi, my mom is Oroko, but this woman learned Bakosi or Akose, and she is fluent. But growing up in Cameroon, it felt like that was a language for my parents to gossip. When the kids are around, they speak in the native language, and then when we are not there, they speak whatever they spoke, and then they speak to us in something. I feel sometimes I look at them like, why did you guys do this? If you could go as far as marrying this man and learn his language, and people don't even know that you are an Oroko woman, why didn't you teach us? Why?
Like you just made a point. The importance of teaching our kids the dialect is inclusivity.
Yeah.
Because when most of us who are here, we have our parents helping to raise our kids, and these kids go to school. They have a strong bond with their grandparents. They go to school. They get all these exciting things happening in school. They want to come home to express themselves to grandma, grandpa. But when they get home, they try to express themselves in English. And the English that these kids speak here is not the English that we learned back home. So the parents do not get exactly what these kids are trying to tell them. But if we had our dialect, if we had taught these kids our dialect, and they come home and they are able to express it in the dialect, you will see that it includes, that inclusivity is there. The kids are able to express themselves freely. Grandma understands what happens in school. The kid is able to express themselves to grandma exactly what happened in school. Now grandma has to wait. Maybe mom and daddy comes home, they tell them, and then mom and dad will now narrate it to mom. That you see that element is being broken up. Is broken up, so it's not really. We have to bring that inclusivity by teaching them the dialect and how they can express themselves anywhere with grandma, grandpa, auntie, in the dialect.
I'll tell you a funny story. So I had my son in 2007 in Canada. First time parent, it was just me and the husband and this little bundle of joy we had. So no parenting tips or anything. So there was a resource they had in Ontario called Ontario Early Years Center. And so I went there because I was a new parent, needed help and all that. So they had a program there where I used to go with my son, the little baby, and they'll give us parenting tips and advice and things, and you have playtime with the child. And the one thing I learned from that place that stayed with me was they told us, speak your language to the child. Speak your language. Don't speak English. Speak whatever language you have in the home, right? If you're playing with a child, speak your language. And if you have two parents in the home who speak two different languages, let one speak. Let the father speak his language, the child speak his, the mother speak. They will pick it up.
They will pick it up. Yep.
And I saw that with my son. So I'll play each time, where he's having a bath, I would show him parts of the body. Me, true, so I'll point out those parts, right? Each time, every time. And then one time when he started talking, I didn't know he was picking up this thing, but I was too good. And then one day he just started doing that. Bo, he's pointing his hand, he says, Bo. He's pointing his eye. Then I asked him, I said, me, show eye, point the eye. Show. All those things I've been saying when you said.
Because so their brains are like sponges. They
like that.
Everything.
Any language you would have given him at that age, he'll pick it up. And really at that young age, he could understand the language because we only spoke that in the home. But school happened. So he went to school now and discovered English and, spoke English with friends and all that kind of thing. So, but I even drew things like, you have to read to the kids when they're young. I did, I drew my own book. I drew an animal. I would draw a horse and I'll point to him. I said, Nyambani. I'll point this one. I said, Tito. I'll point everything and I'll say it in the language instead of English. And he knew those things. So it's possible. It's possible. We should not just accept that English is the only medium of communication that we have.
It is not.
If you know your language, teach your kids. It is not late. It is not late. Teach your kids. As
simple as that. If you know your language, teach your kids.
I have a friend who, it's as simple as that. If you're committed to, right? If you're committed to. Right now, my kids in this house, they will always greet us Ulandi. They don't say good morning. They greet us in the language.
Yes.
In the language. How it has always been, because that is how we say it at home.
I love it.
They might not speak it as fluently, they might not speak it as friendly, but my son, for example, he has picked up things like I can tell him in the language, bring me a cup of water, put that thing away, go take a shower. I say that in the language, he understands it. He might not speak it as friendly. And sometimes you say something long or whatever, he's saying, are you saying I should do this?
Yes.
He's heard it. Because he's been hearing that language. It's very possible. Please, let's not give up. If you can speak the language, I encourage you to help get your kids to speak it as well. Absolutely.
There's a model.
Grandmothers, the grandparents will be so happy.
Yeah. There's a model that the Mancon people of Minnesota have introduced in their cultural meetings, which I would like Auntie Messi to talk about. They have like a Sunday school setting for their kids to learn the native language. Auntie Messi, tell us more about that.
Oh, yes. When we started Makuda, we went from home to home, and we started discovering that most of the times the kids will come in, they just sit there. All we do is tell them to be quiet so we can hear the things that the announcements or whatever discussions are going on. And then we discovered that these kids are learning nothing other than just coming there and sitting with us, dressing and looking nice and sitting with us. They don't learn anything. So we now created a Sunday school where when these kids come, they have a teacher that will teach them basic things in the dialect. Just like your workbook. We have this lady, Dr. Azataba. She was the leader of that group. She actually started that group, and the kids have been doing so well. They go home, they are able to talk to their grandparents, greet them in the dialect, and when they come back at times, they ask them questions on what they've done, some of the things that they do during the past month, and it's quite interesting. And then there are times that they just come we have our meetings, they come in and they greet us in the dialect. They say a few things in the dialect and we applaud to them, and that's basically we cannot take them to they call it Mobako. the heavy words in Mancon, but we teach them the basics, the survivor basics. Yeah.
We have something similar. So we run a Mungaka 101 class online.
Oh, online, okay.
Yes, on Zoom every Sunday. It starts in the fall, and it's for non-native speakers, like really kids who are born here, beginning learners. We call them beginning learners. Kids who are born here, the parents are Bali, they want to learn the language. Also, people who are non-native speakers, like people who are married to Bali, people who want to learn the language. So we have a Mungaka 101 class where we really just teach basic conversational Mungaka, and the kids love that. So we teach things like counting, names of food, conversation in the market, and things like that. And we make fun exercises for them to be able to engage with the language. They've really enjoyed doing that. We run that from September to about May each year, and they have the classes on Sunday. And we've done that for a few, 2-3 years now. And that's been one successful way, and one way in which this book is being used, and the alphabet book. So people who enroll in that course, it's free. People who enroll in the course get to use those resources to practice what they're learning, to learn, enhance their vocabulary in Mungaka, things like that. So certainly one of the initiatives we're trying to use to promote the language within this.
Beautiful. And given the rate of African immigration out of the country, out of the villages to the bigger cities, do you see a risk of us losing our African authentic native languages?
Yes, there's a high chance that we can lose our authentic African language, but I believe that with the value that we are now putting to the importance that we are putting on our dialect and our language, they cannot lose all of it. They're at the verge of losing everything. So I think the organic part of it will be lost. Because the way, just like Lillian said, the way her son might greet her in the morning, Olandi, it will not sound the same way like a child in the village will greet her, Olandi, So maybe the authentic child will say Olandi ma na, or what, they'll add something to it that makes it complete. But your kid here will just be like, good morning. Like you just say good morning or good. They'll not add that good morning, mom. That respect part of it. Yes.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Migration is a challenge. It's a challenge because we lose the connections, we lose intergenerational connections to language, which is also very vital to the language surviving. And then we lose the population of speakers as well as we migrate and move to different parts of the world. But to not give up, we need to keep working on projects that revitalize and promote those languages. It's not to just say, okay, people have migrated. We have a large group of population of Bali people in America, and we gather each year annually in May for our convention, and that's a good opportunity that we have for people to come together, speak. It's always fun for the kids. Now you suddenly you come to the convention, you have kids that have your names, the same African name. You might be the one kid in school that has that African name, but when you get to a gathering where, there are 5 kids called Kena, there are 5 kids called Gima.
You feel welcome.
You feel at home, like, okay, that other Gima, that is this one,
How come everybody's
Gima? Yes, my son is called Gima, and on the Mungaka 101 class we had 3 Gimas at the time. So so that was always fun for them, like, oh, it's Gima and this, is Gima and that, to see that, okay, that name is not just you. It's a beautiful African name that has a meaning, and other people have that name as well. So when we have diasporic communities, just like Mercy is doing with the group in Minnesota, it's important that we also use that opportunity to continue to promote our languages. Even in Cameroon, when people migrate, they go to the big, they still have their meetings, right? Where they still carry on conversations in the language. They still do, cultural practices, the dances and everything in the language, just to make sure that that stays intact. I don't see people going and having their meetings and then speaking English there. That would just not
Lillian,
be
you know,
right.
one thing that I've noticed is a part of this problem is not just our kids, it's us. You know,
It's
like
especially
growing
us.
up, growing up, I knew that my grandma is Nemo, my grandpa is Tata, you know. But in the community now, if your grandkid calls you Nemo, you think like it makes you feel old.
Oh man.
That's a title that you earn. You earn it, and you're supposed
Respectfully.
to receive it with a lot of respect, you know. But you see most of our mothers here, when they say when you call them grandma, they feel like it's kind of stylish. But they would, when you say Nemo, they think that, oh, that it must be somebody holding a cane and walking around, which is not right.
Yeah.
Which is not right. If we look at the literal meaning of that word, Nemo is your grandparent. Tata is your grandparent. It's a sign of respect. You know, even at times when you have a child in the house that is named after your grandmother, your grandfather,
You call them grandma, grandmother.
Yeah. So, but we really have to start embracing these things and make these kids understand the reason. When you call them, Nemo, bring me this, they know that you are according respect to their names, and that is the reason why they have to rush to do what you want them to do. You know.
Absolutely.
So
That is true.
yeah.
That is good. Now let me ask you this. Would you encourage parents who cannot speak their native languages to begin by teaching their children, maybe say Pidgin? That's something we can do?
Of course.
Yeah,
All right.
that's fine.
To me, I think that it still ties them to a group of people.
Yeah.
You know, it gives you a sense of belonging. If I will not lose it, or I will not want to lose everything when they start speaking Pidgin. For instance, I remember they went to college somewhere and they came back, they said, I heard this person speaking Pidgin, and I turned around immediately. You know, that is telling you that somebody that is close to home just spoke in Pidgin, and you want to get to know that person. You want to find out more about that person. You know, there is that bond between you and that person. So to me, I think that if you cannot speak the dialect, Pidgin is important, because when they go back home, they can at least relate to their cousins, their other distant family members, or even aunts and grandmas in Pidgin English. It's better than just going there and speaking in a language that none of them will understand or they can relate.
Yeah, Pidgin is totally acceptable. I speak Mungaka, you speak Mankon, the common language we can speak in Pidgin. When we go to the market in Bamenda, that is the language you use to communicate, right? Pidgin is it's a lingua franca that is used. So I remember in the early days of UB, maybe you didn't have this in your time. There were signs on campus saying
Speak Pidgin. Pidgin. We had that too.
Yes,
we had that.
Campus, which, you know, think of it now. Today we have poetry being written in Pidgin. We have linguists who are studying Pidgin and variations in Pidgin that are spoken across Africa. We have, you know, TV news in Pidgin. So Pidgin is totally acceptable. Yes, it's
look
not
at like in Kenya. In Kenya, you hear them speak Swahili. That's Pidgin. That's their Pidgin, because it's a universal language, because when you speak Mankon, Bafuming, anywhere you come from in the northern region, you speak Pidgin, you know, you can relate with anybody across the board.
That's right.
So I think it's important.
I was going to talk about identity crisis, like children who are from mixed cultural homes, and Lillian already addressed that, saying that one parent can teach, you know, their own language to the child, while the other parent does theirs. And so those kids, like you said, they're like a sponge. They'll absorb it and they'll get it. But now let's talk about other African cultures. So besides the dialect, or stop using that word dialect, maybe, besides the native language, what other cultural aspects do you think that we should impact onto our children? You know, the dressing, yes, my kids call it Cameroon clothes. They love to wear their Cameroon clothes. The food, the songs, the behavior. My
Mhm.
kids will not give you something with one hand. It has
Oh,
to be two hands, things like that. So what other
thank you.
cultural, yeah, and your kids too. Auntie Mercy, your children, I swear. I think I picked that from your household when JJ was really small. We come over. I would see those little girls, oh, auntie, like that, always like a little bit bowing. I loved it. So I would say I picked it from your home. You know, that particular aspect, they will not
Thank
give
you. Thank
one
you.
hand. So how do we teach them other aspects of our culture except the language? Talk about other
You know,
By doing it. Go ahead,
to
Mercy.
me, I think that respect is a paramount part of our culture. It's given. I don't, there's no bargain. There are no ifs or buts when it comes to respect.
Right.
Because I don't see how you will see your uncle and you just talk to them like you talk to your friends.
Hi.
Yo, bro, no,
Hi.
you don't do that. When you're talking to your uncle, your posture, the way you posture yourself is different. It tells you that yes, that person is older than you. That person, even if they are not older, just by virtue of the fact that they are your mother's sibling, they have they have that how do I say they earn you
Owe them that. Yeah,
yeah,
they,
you
they've
owe them
earned
that
it.
respect.
Mhm.
Yes, you
Mhm.
owe them that because we have uncles today that are younger than ourselves, but
Mhm.
by virtue of the fact that that's your mother's brother or your mother's sister, you owe them that respect. And also in Mancon here in Macuda, Minnesota, what we do is when these kids come to our cultural meetings, we serve them our traditional food.
Okay, we don't buy them pizza and say for the kids, and then you eat your
It used to be,
be.
and I picked out a couple of kids that actually come there because they want to eat achu.
Look at that.
And when they come there because they want to eat achu and you deprive them of this achu, then what have you done? Next time you tell them, let's go to Macuda, they will not want to go. So I think teaching them how to eat the food and eat it the right way, it's important.
Not
And
with
also,
a cutlery with your finger.
yeah, with your
Please.
finger, and you wash your hands, you eat with your finger, and you go in a circular motion. And then also we teach them how to dress completely. The reason why you put on the traditional regalia, you dress a certain way, you put on your cross, you put your bag, and you have your the knives that they use in dancing. Yes. And also one important thing is, when we first started in Minnesota, when we started here, I came here in the early 2000s, and we were very few. We used to come in, would go dance at Samba, Bagalum, all of those things, and we felt like we were doing it. Then it got to a point we started having kids. And when we go, we want to, it's a once in a month thing. So you feel excited, you want to dance when the music is playing. And we used to have competition like different groups in the Northern Zone, they will compete each other. So it got to a point and I was like, no, this we have to teach our kids. They play Mbagalum here, you can tell that that's the sound of Mbagalum. You know what dance steps to take. If they play Asamba, you know that this is Asamba. If they play Makonge, you know that this is Makonge, So our kids will just come in jumping. They don't know. We have to teach them.
Right.
So we started teaching our kids how to, it was a struggle. I will not lie to you because everyone was excited to come and dance. It was a struggle. Not until when our kids learned how to dance that dance. That was the days of when Destiny was still a baby.
A little girl, yeah. I see them at the Cameroon community displaying their cultural dance.
And when they learned how to dance that dance, now we told the other community members that, you know what, we are not going to compete with you anymore. We've passed that level. We'll send our kids to compete with you. And believe me, they did a fantastic job. It was still in that bandana,
the bandana hall downtown.
In the Eritrean Center. Our kids beat all the other groups hands down. And from then, other cultures now saw the need to now get their kids to start learning it. And I feel even if there's anything that I have not done, I'm so happy that aspect, because our kids will learn through music, and the music, they sing it in the dialect, they pick 1 or 2 words from the dialect, and they are able to go back home. Even if they're dancing, they'll not just be jumping like they would have been here. They'll follow the rhythm, and they'll have a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. If they cannot really articulate well in the dialect, they can articulate, they can do that through dancing.
Their bodies, yeah.
They
Lillian.
can do that through saying, I want to eat that you, and you observe them eat it the right way. You know, so those are some of the aspects that we have actually encouraged, and we take them
good.
everywhere to all our conventions, and they compete. They do a great job.
Right.
That is wonderful. I like that. I know
Yeah.
that the Mancon community in Minnesota, I know, is very vibrant, very strong. So
Yes, it is. It is.
to you, very good job. We in our community, again, you know, the language is important. The food, our food is important. It's an important part of your identity. Cultural expression through dance. We do have the kids dance during our annual convention, but it's not something we do consistently in our meetings like they are doing in with the Mancon. I think we could do better with that. But when we go to convention, they do create time for kids to come and do little things. Like could be like last year we had the kids who had been doing the Mungaka 101. They came and did a presentation on some of the things they had learned in the class, like numbers, food, and things like that. We also had other kids who came and did a dance display. Some other years we've had like kids stage a play. So every opportunity where
they play in your native language?
They tried, yes.
Wow.
That's good.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
That's beautiful. No matter how they might have messed up
it takes a lot of work.
That's good.
It takes a lot of work. So, but any opportunity where they get to have an opportunity to use the language, to showcase the language and the culture is very important.
So you have documented. Go ahead, Auntie Mercy.
No, I was just going to say, even our kids that are coming, the generation that is coming from back home to meet us here, you'll be shocked that they don't speak a little bit of the language of our dialect.
Wow.
That's the most shocking part of it. You know, I don't know what is going wrong. I think this has to come from our palaces, our villages, and they have to go back to the roots.
I think these are kids from parents who grew up in the big cities, like we said earlier. So
maybe.
Yeah, you have to call mommy, daddy. You know how we're growing up. You have
instead of ba and ma or ni and
exactly.
It's mommy and daddy.
Oh wow! Now let's talk about documenting our African languages. You have done a great job putting this, you know, the word book. This is not going anywhere. It is planted. It is stable. Do you think that the way for us to ensure that our languages do not become extinct is only through documentation?
The documentation is very important. Speaking it is very important. So we need to continue keeping a community of speakers of that language who can pass it on to another generation. So having those resources through documentation is very, very important. And maybe I have news for you. We have an Akose book that will be coming out soon.
All right.
Yes, that's why I got to know. That's why I got to know. But because of I am passionate about promoting African languages, and I have really tried. If I know there's somebody out there who is doing work on another language, I'm really trying to get people to say, hey, do this. You know, we can help you publish it and things like that. So part of this year I have spent editing an Akose book, which is why I got to know that variation between people from Ninong and
people from Nyandong and all the other places. Wow.
Yes, because I was trying to get somebody who is an Akose speaker to help me edit this book. Not edit, like I know the sound system based on that thing I talk about, the general alphabet of Cameroon languages. So I could know the tones and whatever. But when I went to this person and said, okay, I just want to check that this is correct, and I'll read the word that's written in Akose, and though that person is a Bakose speaker, I say, oh no, that's not how we say it. They are just from a different part a different village, right? And they just read
Yeah.
it slightly differently.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a Bakossi book. There's a book coming out on Akose. Documentation is important. Also making use of new media, adapting to new domains like, Facebook, Instagram. I don't use Instagram, but like all the other media that are coming up, making use of that to promote language is very, very important as well. You can reach different communities of speakers through that means. So one of the things I did was to start a Facebook page that is just a Mungaka language hub. And we have speakers there. I share tips there. I share words. I share different things. I share proverbs. So people get an opportunity each day or each week to encounter the language, right?
That's
and
right.
it's there permanently and accessible to native speakers and new learners. I'm also involved with other projects that have to do globally with promoting languages and revitalizing languages, because I'm keen to learn and understand what other people are doing so I can bring that to my own community and do the same and help promote and preserve my language that way.
I'm looking at you in awe, like, okay, how do you edit a book in Akose? Like, you're not even from that. I'm just staring at you like,
right?
yeah,
it's
how
funny
do you
when
do that? And you're telling somebody that's not how we say it.
No. So it's written down. Seriously, if you've studied the orthography,
right,
and you understand that those diacritics and things, like I could look at a word and say it. I don't know what that word means in Akose, really. But because I have been very familiar with the sound system, and that I know that Akose book has been written based on that, what the general alphabet of Cameroon languages. So there's a whole set of alphabets from which Cameroon languages are drawn. Yes, and you can look at those sounds and know them. And if you understand how the diacritics, those little marks, the accents, they call them in French.
Accent something. I'm like, yeah, you have that in Mungaka. I'm like, what is this?
Yes. So those things are also used in Akose. So I could pronounce like, okay, is this how it's pronounced? Is this correct? And the person will say, in my region, we say it this way instead. So in the end, I just gave them like, okay, we're just gonna say this book is written by somebody from this region of
that region. Yeah. Stick with that. Oh,
yes,
wow.
so that if somebody who is from another region picks it up, they know that okay, the author is this region. And so my own way I say it might not necessarily be that. Yes.
I love that.
So
I really do.
Yeah.
You know, the way that we evade speaking our own languages and trying to have ourselves and our children adapt to other people's languages is something that I watch a lot of authors. Chimamanda Ngozi is one of my favorite. I have seen a lot of her videos, and she said that parents refuse to teach their children their own native language, yet they consciously is the word here, enroll those kids in Japanese classes, Chinese classes,
Spanish classes.
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because you're consciously doing it. Oh, the world is becoming, dominated by China, so go learn Chinese. Why?
Yeah. Why can't you think that someday they have to learn our own?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I know.
We had in our Mungaka class, we had a student from Howard University. Right? This is a student who had grown up in a household where one of the parents was Bali, but they didn't know the language. Now they've come to this age, they're very conscious of their identity, and they want to come and learn Mungaka. They are learning Mungaka, they are learning Igbo. But they're not Igbo, they're kids from Cameroon, right? Yes, it's identity. They are realizing that, oh, this is who I am. I am proud of this identity that I have, and this language is important, right? If you can make time for your kids to go learn Spanish and for your kids to go, learn Japanese or Indian because you think, I don't know.
That would be
an
addition.
Don't speak your language. I don't know. That is a sad comment on who you are. You're buying into these other cultures, and then your own culture and your own identity is not even.
You're bearing it.
Your kids. I just don't understand. My kids study Spanish in school. Hey, but at home.
Because he was
You're
available.
enrolled in
It
that
was not you
Mungaka
saying
class.
that, hey, come go and
It's
Spanish.
part of their
No.
it's part of their
No.
curriculum.
That's why I said the key word there was
Mhm.
consciously. You consciously take them and say, go here
Yeah.
every Wednesday for
Yeah.
2 hours to learn some other person's language.
Oh. Can you dedicate that 2 hours for them to learn your own language?
Your own.
Yeah.
Do you even have that time? Do you think you want to sacrifice that time to go? Because it's difficult. You say it over and over.
They do it.
Yes. Yes.
They do it.
You say it over and over. Do you have that patience to sacrifice and teach that child? I think it's more about a lot of sacrifice and the time that we put in, you know.
Absolutely.
And consistency. Just getting, like you say, every time the kids get up in the morning, they greet you in the dialect. The moment they don't do it, then you have to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I know that there is a future for African languages when I see books like this, you know, and the one coming up for Akose, it really warms my heart because culture is something I admire so
people
much.
have done a lot.
They
Igbo
do.
Language.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
They do. When you talk to most foreigners and you want to talk, they easily remember Igbo or Yoruba because they have done a lot. So
you
it's
know,
time
Igbos, they
that we
pass
start
it through
doing a
their
lot.
music.
Yes.
They are very good in music, and our kids will pick on music from every culture.
Don't even get me started with music because you go to a Cameroonian traditional wedding, there's an Igbo song playing.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, it's Africa, yes, but there's no way that I'm a fussy girl and you hear me sing some Igbo song in my cultural wedding. It gives me a headache. Don't even get me started with that because sometimes I'm like, I know we are all Africans, but I want my own identity.
That takes me to a place where I was holding this for last, but I just have to spill it now. I know Mother's Day is coming up soon. So my daughter has sang a song that is going to be part of her EP release in Mancon.
Wow.
And that song is dedicated to mothers.
Beautiful.
And she has actually sang it in Mancon. Look forward to that release, which is, like I said, I was shocked the day that I listened to that piece. I was so shocked. Yeah.
Now you mentioned
so that's how they learn.
I just remember we have a lot of musicians, Bali musicians here in the United States that are doing a lot to, have music in Bali, and they're tapping into some of the music that we have back home, and they're just using modern instruments to play that. And that is one way that we're making sure that, part of our culture lives on and thrives on. So that is a really, really, impressive and very, very worthy effort, really, that we appreciate through those musicians that, yes, that use the language to, preserve our music, our heritage in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I was also wondering what we can do when it comes to music. How our parents just use just basic things around us to produce sound, to produce sound. How can we preserve that? Because that is priceless.
It is priceless.
It is priceless. You can take even you pick a piece of wood and music comes
an empty can of milk, and you do something.
I don't know how they did it, but I think that is something that I don't know how we can preserve it, because these are things that the Western world comes over to us, learn it,
yeah,
and then they
add a
little bit of Western touch to it, and then it becomes theirs.
That's the food for
thought. How can we
one.
preserve ours and let it be authentically ours?
Yeah,
that's a good one. One last topic before we head on to African proverbs, which I assigned both of you to bring. I'm that host who always gives her guest assignment. So any plans, Dr. Lillian, any plans of getting what's it called, is it a paragraph book? Is that what it's called?
A full word book.
A full
book. Yeah, something I'm working on. Gosh, I'm working on is a phrase book. It's a book of common phrases.
Okay.
so that you can actually now start taking these words and putting them together.
Mhm.
And
The
building
sentence.
a sentence.
Yes, like common phrases. Osaka, how are you?
Mhm.
Ogoya, where are you going? That kind of thing, like things that
Mhm.
people would use.
Okay.
So I'm going to be working on that for the next few years.
Lovely.
Wow.
Get these things.
Lovely. And Auntie
Get this.
Mercy, please keep it going in Minnesota. You know, teaching.
Please, keep it going. Please find at least somebody in your community that can work on a similar project. And
I
reach
know
out.
somebody already. I know some.
Absolutely.
We have one of our dads who is here. He is doing an amazing work. He's doing an amazing job. He already has the alphabet. He started teaching the kids, and he organized classes that kids were learning that online. So if you want to get connected to him, I will
Yeah.
work that out.
Yeah, the more we have those resources out there, really, the better. It's not just I want other African languages to have
Oh,
resources
sure. Yeah.
Documentation.
for
Yeah.
learners. Yes, very important.
Yeah,
That
there's
is
nothing
true.
as
I am
important.
because we are.
Exactly.
Ubuntu.
There's nothing as
Yeah.
important as your
Yeah.
culture. People
Yes.
are traveling to Africa today. African Americans want to know where their roots are. And we already have those, yet we're playing with it. We can start with
Yeah.
the way our kids greet us in the morning, start by singing some cultural songs at home, start by feeding them the food, you know. They always say it's
names.
spicy, and I say try, and naming your children too. Yeah, my kids' names are messed up in school every day, but I don't care. So my son goes by JJ because he's a junior. So the J is in there because of junior, but Ngangmi is his first name. People are like, Ngangame. I'm like, don't worry, don't cut it short. Let them struggle.
Yeah.
But my daughter is Masoma. Masoma is easier. Masoma. So they're pretty easy with Masoma because it's easier. So
But
I
you
think
know what's funny? They don't struggle. Think of the name Brzezinski.
exactly.
Americans don't struggle
Yeah.
to pronounce.
No, they don't.
Like Brzezinski doesn't have. It's like 6 consonants in a row,
Yeah,
and they
without
still
a
pronounce
vowel.
it.
Yeah.
Like, how did they get that?
Because they want to.
That's because
Yes.
they want to.
Yeah.
They want. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And the easy African name, they just mess it up. So
Yeah.
we keep insisting and they will get it. I tell my kids, do not give them a short of your name. Your name is your
Yeah.
full name. Don't let
Your name
anybody
is your
cut
name.
it short for you. So thank you so much for
You know,
being on top
Amanda
to
said
me.
your name is so beautiful. We have a whole ceremony to give it to you.
Exactly.
That's what we have naming
Naming
ceremonies.
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 Yes.
Yes. We don't just give you a name like that at the hospital and then
No,
we have a whole ceremony to give you your
Yeah.
name. It is that important and that
it
beautiful.
is. Oh, I like that. It is. It is that
We're very
important.
grateful for that. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so
And
much.
the funniest thing is that none of my kids has they have you will have joy, courage. None of that is documented.
Oh, wow,
But
really? So
yes,
you have Aqua is documented and Sang is documented,
yeah,
not
yes,
Comfort, Joy.
but
But your
not
kids
all
have
the
beautiful
other. They are
English
not
names.
documented.
You go into Auntie Mercy's house, there's joy, there's comfort, there's Prince, there's patience, like what? And there's mercy.
And to me, the reason I gave those names because they were symbolic. I
Okay.
just did not give a name that didn't have, I don't know, that did not have that value to me.
So the
But
point
yeah,
being that even if it's an English name, let it have a meaning like mercy.
let it have a meaning. Yes.
Yeah, so
I don't
something
want to
that we
just
can.
name maybe so I don't want to offend anybody. Bridget, I don't know what Bridget means to, it means to me. But if I find out and I understand the meaning of Bridget, then I will name my kid. I will call my kid Bridget. So
I think
courage,
people are conscious of that.
comfort, joy, Prince, they all are symbolic to me.
You said something, Lillian.
No, I was saying increasingly people are within our community are conscious of
Yeah.
that. So like, if I just look around my circle of friends here, I don't have a lot of people that have English names. So I have, my friends, you have Enanga, you have Mokom, you have Che, you have, B. You have all these kids with African names, Shurubi. Those, the people are more conscious of that.
They are.
I feel the Yoruba names are so long, they are almost like a sentence.
And
they mean something.
Put it down.
Because of the meaning of that name. So when they call you your full name, you feel
then the meaning stands
the
out.
importance of that name. So I think it's something that we should you know.
Yeah, we should really use that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This has been educative teaching. I learned a lot, dialect, language, you know, and since Elena is editing a book in a completely different, so it's possible to learn because we go to Germany and we completely start from scratch, learn German. So we can do it with our own. We can do it. You know, you move
Yes.
to Portugal and before you know you're speaking Portuguese. So it's not that
Yes.
hard. We can do it, starting with simple word books like this one, Mungaka word book.
Mungaka.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much.
documenting our
Thank
African
you.
languages. Thank you. And now on to the
Beautiful.
fun part of the show, African proverb. Let me start with you, Auntie Mercy. What's your African proverb for today? You can say it in any language, but just try to explain to us what it means.
You know, I will start with one that is tied to what we are doing today. Knowledge is a garden. If you don't cultivate it, you cannot harvest.
That's
So,
very true.
yeah, it's just self-explicit. For instance, our dialect, that was our topic of discussion today. Yeah, it is a garden of many things. The way we dress, the way we talk, the way we respect, the way we respond to situations. You know, it's an embodiment of everything. You have to constantly cultivate it by making sure that these values are being knitted in. If you don't do it constantly, you'll never harvest from it.
Use it or lose it.
So yeah, you either use it or lose it.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's exactly what Dr. Lina is doing,
Yeah.
cultivating the different African languages. I wonder what
Yes.
her own a proverb would be.
I was going with Tina too, but my proverb is this: in the language we say Moon cham cham manisa manjibo. A child that is carried does not know the distance
Ah,
that is
how good
traveled
is
by
that?
the road. That is what it means, right?
Yeah.
It's about privilege, you know, taking things for
Yes.
granted. And it just reminds of, you know, in life to take a pause and be aware and not take things for granted and be conscious of privilege.
You know, I always wonder what inspired most of our African proverbs. Like there should be a situation where somebody look at that and say, you that child, you don't understand how far we're going because you're on my back.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that, but they're beautiful sayings. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on
We
top.
also have a book of Proverbs in Mungaka, so we're doing a lot. There's a book that just came out this year. Has 202 proverbs, Mungaka proverbs.
Are they translated?
Mungaka.
Are they explained?
Yes, they're translated into English and Mungaka, and then it gives you the meaning. Yeah.
Okay.
So
wow, that's great.
That's exciting.
We call Proverbs Chunana.
Chunana. See, that's my takeaway for today. I learned how to say proverb in Mungaka. Oh wow. Well, Auntie Mercy, thank you so much. Sister Lee, I'll meet you someday in person and we'll continue.
We will, yes. Definitely.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Honor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a blessed day.
Bye.
Bye.